Hello everyone, myself Vinay Kumar. I'm pursuing PhD in physics. So in this particular YouTube channel, I'll be teaching physics, chemistry, and mathematics starting from 8th standard till 12th standard. So if you want to learn physics, chemistry, and mathematics, then please do subscribe to my channel. So in my previous video, I had started the new chapter in 9th standard mathematics. That was the 12th chapter, which is based on statistics. So in my previous video, I had explained about the difference between bar graph and an histogram plot. So how to normalize the histogram plot, that also I have explained in my previous video. So in this particular video, we'll look into the next concepts which are there after this histogram plots. So the next concept in this chapter which you have is frequency polygon. So to understand frequency polygon, we look back into the histogram plot. So for example, if there is an histogram plot like this, so y-axis is there and x-axis is there. So there is an histogram plot like this. Let's assume there is an histogram plot like this. So the height of this histogram plot give the frequency in that particular range. So for example, if this is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So from 10 to 20 range, the height of this particular rectangular bar, what you are seeing, the height gives the frequency. That means on y-axis you have the variable which gives you the number of students or number of marks or whatever the quantity is there, it is represented on y-axis. So for example, if you take 10 to 20, so the rectangular bar which you are seeing here, so the height of that rectangular bar will give the frequency of that particular range. So now what do you mean by frequency of a polygon? So for example, if there is an histogram plot like this, now the center point of this rectangular bar, so the height of the rectangular bar, wherever the rectangular bar is getting end, so in that end, the middle point between the range you have to consider. That is, if 10 is the starting point and 20 is the ending point for this particular, the first rectangular bar, then in between 10 and 20, you have to take the point on top of this rectangular bar like this. So from 20 to 30, the midpoint will be somewhere here. And from 30 to 40, the midpoint will be somewhere here. And 40 to 50, the midpoint is here. From 50 to 60, the midpoint is here. From 60 to 70, the midpoint is somewhere here. So now you have to draw straight line connecting these points. That is, from 10 to 20, midpoint is 15 and the height of the rectangular bar is there. So that means somewhere at this particular position, you're pointing this point and this point is in between 10 and 20. Similarly, somewhere at this particular point on y-axis, you have to represent through this point and you're pointing that in between 20 and 30. So this acts as the midpoint for this second rectangular bar. So now you have to go on drawing straight lines from these points. So first you can connect the first and second point. Second, you can connect the second and third point. After that, you can connect third and fourth point. After that, you can connect fourth and fifth point. After that, you can connect fifth and sixth point like this. So now after connecting all these points, so you're getting the graph something like this. So it is going like this, then it is going like this, then it is coming like this, then it is coming like this, and then it is ending like this. So now you have an x-axis over here like this. So here we are actually discussing about polygon, frequency polygon. So that means this should be complete. This is not forming a polygon. So that means from this point you have to join the x-axis and from this point also you have to join the x-axis. How to join that? You have to consider the previous step. From 0 to 10 range, there is no data. So there is no data means you have to consider that on x-axis and that too in the midpoint of the previous unit. So from 10 to 20, 20 to 30, you can see there is equal interval. Similarly, from 10 to 0 also there is an equal interval. That is the difference of 10 is there. So midpoint of this you have to consider. Because there is no data from 0 to 10, so we are considering this at the x-axis. That means the y value is 0. So we are putting this point on x-axis because y value is 0 because there is no data from 0 to 10 range. So that's why y is 0 and x will be in between the previous range. So previous range means from 10 to 20, the previous range will be 0 to 10. So now we are considering 10 to 20 as the starting range. So the previous range for this 10 to 20 is from 0 to 10. So from 0 to 10, the midpoint you have to consider, and the frequency is 0 because here y value is 0. So the frequency is governed by the y axis. So that's why the height of the rectangular bar gives you the frequency in that particular range. So from 10 to 20, this is the frequency, and in between 10 to 20, we are considering the point. Previous range, if you consider from 0 to 10, there is no frequency at all. So that means there is no data present. So that's why y value is 0, and x value we have to consider in between the previous range. So the previous range is 0 to 10. So in between 0 to 10 is this particular point. Similarly, after 70 also we don't have any data points. So that's why again the y value will be 0, and this point you have to consider in between 70 and 80. That is the next range. From 60 to 70, there is a data point, there is frequency. From 70 to 80, there is no frequency. So that's why the data point will be, the y value will be 0. So that's why this point will be on x-axis, and the next range is 70 to 80. After 60 to 70, the next range is 70 to 80. So that's why the midpoint you have to consider between 70 and 80 on x-axis, and y value will be 0 because frequency is 0. So after considering this, you can join this point and you can join these two points like this. So now you have a complete polygon like this. So you can see one point is here, one point is here, one point is here, one is here, one point is over here, one is here, one is here, and one is here. So now this is forming a proper polygon. So that means we are considering the frequencies in different range. We are considering frequency in different range, and we are connecting those points. So this is the frequency from 10 to 20 range. So this particular point is ranging from 10 to 20 on x-axis, and this particular point is ranging from 20 to 30, and this particular point is ranging from 30 to 40. This point is signifying 40 to 50, and this point is signifying 50 to 60, and this point is signifying the frequency in between 60 to 70, and this point is from 70 to 80, and this first point is from 0 to 10. So that means from 0 to 10 there is no frequency. From 10 to 20 this is the frequency. From 20 to 30 this is the frequency. From 30 to 40 this is the frequency. From 40 to 50 this is the frequency. From 50 to 60, 60 to 70, and 70 to 80. And 70 to 80 also doesn't have any frequency, so that's why y value is 0. This gives you a complete polygon. So that means you're considering frequency of all the rectangular bars in this histogram plot, and you're connecting the points and forming a full polygon. So that's why you are calling this as frequency polygon. So without plotting histogram plot, you can just plot this frequency polygon. So this also will give an idea how the trend is going on, because in histogram we can see the trend is going on like this, and when you see this frequency polygon here also you can see the trend is going on like this. So that means here instead of plotting histogram plot, you can plot directly the frequency polygon. You can take the midpoint of the range which is there on x-axis and the frequency corresponding to that range. So there you will get an exact point. So this particular point, if you are considering, this is in between 10 and 20. So in 10 and 20 range, what is the frequency? From 20 to 30, what is the frequency? From 30 to 40, what is the frequency? So like that, you go on joining the points and you get a complete polygon. If you consider the previous range also where the frequency is 0, and the next range also where frequency is 0, so that polygon will be completed, and this entire polygon will show you, will give you an idea about the data which you are discussing. Here I have not considered any data because just for an example I have randomly taken this plot. So now we will solve one example so that we will understand this properly. So before that, let's say from the first range itself the plot has started. So let's say the plot has started from the first range itself. So let's say there is an histogram plot like this. So let us consider this as an histogram plot. So from 0 only the plot is getting started. So that means in the first range itself, you have certain frequency. So from 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So here also from 0 to 10 only there is a non-zero frequency. That means frequency is not 0. So some y value is there here, and for from 10 to 20 also some y value is there, that is some frequency is there. So here also frequency is there, here also frequency is there, here also frequency is there. Anyway, from 50 to 60 you consider this particular point where there is no frequency, and you can take y value as 0 in between 50 and 60 because there is no frequency in between 50 and 60. But here already it has started from the 0th point itself, from 0 to 10. In the first range itself you have certain frequency. So how to take the previous range? So in order to take the previous range, you can just extend this x-axis in the negative direction, and you can take the previous range similar to 0, 10, 20, 30, how you have taken in the positive region. Similarly in the negative region also the same range will be there, the same unit will be there. So here also the first unit will have minus 10. So from 0 to minus 10 it is frequency is 0, that is y value is 0. So 0 to 10 midpoint, 0 to minus 10 in between point you have to consider, and y value is 0 because from 0 to minus 10 there is no data, so there is no frequency. So that's why 0 y is 0 and the point will be in between 0 and minus 10. So this point you can consider as starting point, and this again you can go on connecting like this. So now this also will give you a polygon something like this. So now here one more thing you can identify. Let's say you are not plotting histogram plot, directly you want to plot the frequency polygon. So then what you can do is you can just consider the starting point and the ending point of the first range. So here starting point is 0 and the ending point is 10 in the first range. So first data you have in between 0 to 10 on x-axis. So from 0 to 10 means you have to add 0 and 10 and divide this with 2. So this is known as class mark. So this is known as class mark. So class mark means on x-axis where you are considering a particular range. So the initial point and the final point in that particular range you have to consider. That is the initial limit, that is the lower limit and the upper limit you have to consider. So here I am taking lower limit in the first range plus upper limit in the same first range. So this 0 to 10 acts as the first range for me. In that first range, lower limit plus upper limit. So in this range, which is the lower limit? 0 is the lower limit. Which is the upper limit? 10 is the upper limit. In the second range, 10 will be the lower limit, 20 will be the upper limit. In third range, 20 will be the lower limit, 30 will be the upper limit. So divided by 2. So that means 0 plus 10 divided by 2. 0 is the lower limit, 10 is the upper limit in the first range. So 0 plus 10 is 10. 10 by 20. So 10 by 2. Sorry. 10 by 2 will be 5. So the point will be on 5. So that is what the midpoint. So here we are calculating the midpoint of this histogram bar. So the first rectangular bar, the first range what you are seeing on the x-axis. So the midpoint we are calculating by taking a lower limit and the upper limit. So just add the lower and upper limit and divide it by 2, you'll get the midpoint. So this 5 will act as the data point on x-axis, and frequency, whatever is given in the question, will be the y value. So now you got the y-axis and x-axis, both values. So directly without plotting this histogram plot, you can point and you can just go on connecting the points. So that I will solve through one example. So now we will be solving example 5. So example 4 you can solve on your own, because in example 4 you have to just take the marks on the x-axis range and frequency is number of students, that is in the y-axis. So you can plot an histogram plot and you can point the midpoints and you can complete the frequency polygon. But in example 5 you have to not plot the histogram plot, directly you have to plot frequency polygon. So how to plot that? I'll show that. So in example 5, they have given a data. So cost of living index is there as one data set. So cost of living index and number of weeks. So number of weeks. So that means they have given frequency as number of weeks and cost of living index as the range on x-axis. So this range starts from 140 to 150 and 150 to 160, 160 to 170, 170 to 180, 180 to 190, 190 to 200. So now number of weeks is 5, 10, 20, 9, 6, 2. So now we can plot this without plotting an histogram plot. So previously, if you want to plot histogram plot, then you could have just taken y-axis and x-axis. So here you can just start from, so here you can just show the break and you can just start from 140 to 150, 150 to 160, 160 to 170. Like this you can plot, and from 140 to 150 it is 5, from 150 to 160 it is 10, from 160 to 170 it will be 20. Something like this you can go on plotting histogram plot. So how to plot frequency polygon? So here first we will consider a graph like this. So there is x-axis and y-axis. So this is y, this is x. So y-axis will have frequency, and here frequency is number of weeks. So the highest number of week is 20 and the lowest is 2. So both 2 and 20 should be there on y-axis. So you have to take the range on y-axis in such a way that both 2 and 20 are included. So I will start from 4. So it starts from 0, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. So it will take 4 weeks per unit on the y-axis. So here the scale for y-axis, so the scale for y-axis is 1 unit is equal to 4 weeks. So 1 unit is equal to 4 weeks. Similarly on x-axis, my range will start from 140 to 150. So similarly on x-axis, 1 unit is equal to 10. So 10 index. So here cost of living index they have given. So 1 unit is equal to 10 index. Why? Because we have range in terms of tens. Because 140 to 150, 150 to 160, 160 to 170. So the difference between two lower limit and upper limit is 10. So that's why 1 unit on x-axis you can consider as 10x. So that is, first we will take some break point. That is because from 0 we are starting. But here the data is actually getting started from 140. So we don't care about the initial data points. You can just straight away start from somewhere from 130. So we'll start from 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, 190. It is there up to 200. So 200. So here initial breakpoint I have shown. That means that contains from 0 to 120. And the next point is 130. So this breakpoint indicates, it is from 0 to 120. So after 120 there is 130. So 130 to 140. So each 1 unit on x-axis is 10 index. So 130 to 140, 140 to 150, because difference between 130 and 140 is 10. Difference between 140 and 150 is 10. Difference between 150 and 160 is again 10. So 10 difference is there. So that's why 1 unit is equal to 10 index. So this is what I had to explain here. So now from 130 to 140 we have no cost of living index. So there is no number of weeks given for 130 to 140 index. There is no number of weeks given. So that means frequency is 0. So 130 to 140, we have to consider the midpoint of 130 to 140. How to calculate midpoint? Midpoint is nothing but class mark. So class mark, here we have seen lower limit plus upper limit divided by 2. So in the first range, lower limit is 130, upper limit is 140. So 130 plus 140 divided by 2. So what is 130 plus 140? 130 plus 140 will be 270 divided by 2. This will be equal to 135. So 135 means it will be here. So this is 135 mark. And what is the frequency at 135? That means what is the frequency in between 130 and 140? Frequency is 0 because there is no number of weeks present from 130 to 140. So y-axis value will be 0. So 135 comma 0 will be the first point. The second point will be in between 140 and 150, that is 145. So in 140 to 150 you have 5 number of weeks. So you can see here from 140 to 150 we have 5 number of weeks. So frequency is 5. So 5 means it will be somewhere here. So somewhere here it will be there. And 145 means somewhere here it will be there. So 145 is in between 140 and 150. So from there you can take a perpendicular line like this. And from 5, because here frequency is 5. So from 5 you can take one more perpendicular line like this. Wherever these two perpendicular line meets, that will be your second point. So from 150 to 160, what is the midpoint? 155. Because 150 plus 160 is 310. 310 divided by 2 will be 155. So 155 is the x-axis value. What is the frequency? What is the frequency for 150 to 160? Frequency is 10. So that means 10 will be in between 8 and 12. So you can draw a perpendicular line from 10, and from here from 155 you can draw a perpendicular line like this. So wherever these two lines meet, that will be the third point. Similarly, from 160 to 170, 165 will be the midpoint, and in that range 20 is the number of weeks. So 20 is the frequency. So again from 20 you can draw a perpendicular line. From 165 also you can draw a perpendicular line like this. So wherever these two lines meet, that will be your fourth point. From 170 to 180, what is the midpoint? From 170 to 180 it will be 175. Midpoint is 175, and in this range 9 is the highest frequency. So the 9 is the frequency in this range. So 9 means it will be here in between 8 and 10. So somewhere over here you can draw a perpendicular line. From 170 to 180 the midpoint is 175. So from here you can draw a perpendicular line. So this meeting point will be your fifth point. And 180 to 190 midpoint will be 185. So from 185 you can start a perpendicular line, and in 180 to 190 6 is the frequency. So 6 means it will be in between 4 and 8. So it will be somewhere over here. So from here you can draw perpendicular line. From 185 you can draw perpendicular line. So this meeting point will be your sixth point. So now 1 2 3 4 5 6 sixth point. So from 190 to 200, 195 will be the midpoint. So in that range 2 is the frequency. 2 will be in between 0 and 4. So from here you can draw a perpendicular line. So from 195 also you can draw a perpendicular line. So this meeting point will be the seventh point. Now you have to complete the polygon. So that means you have to consider the next range as well. So from 200 to 210 also you have to take, which is the midpoint from 200 to 210. 205 is the midpoint between 200 and 210. So now if from in the range 200 and 210, what is the frequency? There is no frequency. There is no number of weeks given. So that's why point will be on x-axis. That is y value is 0. So now you can go on connecting the points. So 130. So from this first point to second point, second to third point, third to fourth point, fourth to fifth point, fifth to sixth point, sixth to seventh point, and at last you can complete the polygon like this. So this is the frequency polygon. So this is the frequency polygon for example 5. So this is the frequency polygon for example 5. So this is how, without plotting an histogram plot, just by considering the midpoints of all the range given here and the frequency whatever they have given, so considering that you can draw a line graph like this. So this line graph where you're considering the midpoints of range on x-axis and you're considering the frequency on y-axis. So here frequency is number of weeks on y-axis. So here frequency is number of weeks and the range on x-axis is index, that is cost of living index. So this is there on x-axis, number of weeks is there on y-axis. So you can consider the midpoint of the ranges which they have given on the x-axis. With that you have to plot against the frequency which is there on y-axis. So this you will get a frequency polygon. So this is how you have to plot a frequency polygon. That means here in the place of 140 to 150, we are considering 145 as the midpoint. From 150 to 160, we are considering 155 as the midpoint. 160 to 170, we are considering 165, 175, 185, 195. So before it was 135, where for 135 it is 0, and for 205 also it is 0. So starting from 135 till 205, we can take 135, 145, 155, 165, 175, 185, 195, 205, and 0, 5, 10, 20, 9, 6, 2, and again it ends with 0. So that means you get a complete polygon. So this is how you have to plot a frequency polygon, and we have plotted here. So this is all there in this particular video. I have explained all the concepts which are there in this 12th chapter of 9th standard mathematics. So there is one exercise in this particular chapter, that is exercise 12.1. So only few questions in exercise 12.1 I'll solve. Remaining questions you can solve on your own. That I'll be solving in my next video. Until then, if you want to learn more physics, chemistry and mathematics starting from 8th standard till 12th standard, then you have to subscribe to my channel. Please do subscribe to my channel and stay tuned with my channel. Thank you.